Only days after the defense minister of Ukraine was on the front lines, everything took a turn. But really, what unfolded in that command post prior to the attack? And what makes this attack a unique event that could turn the tide of the war? This video reveals the complete narrative. You will observe how Ukraine executed a precision strike on a significant Russian command center, what happened after that, and what it all could signify for the future of the conflict. Before we start, please click the thumbs up if you would like to stay up to date on breaking news, and subscribe with the bell on so you do not miss the actual stories behind the news. This may be the decisive moment when one successful, determined blow could swing the tide of one of the strongest nations in the world. In the midst of the contested areas of eastern Ukraine, a remarkable sequence of events occurred that reverberated in military circles on both sides. On September 8th, Ukrainian forces make a multifaceted strike on several Russian command posts in occupied Donetsk Oblast. The attack was undertaken not in a chaotic manner, according to the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, but by premeditated planning carried out explicitly against the command and control mechanisms of the Russian Center Group of Forces and 41 Combined Arms Army. Units that have been heavily committed to combat in the Pokrovsk area, one of the most involved commands in the eastern direction. Pokrovsk, which was a quiet industrial town, has become the center of Russian offensive operations in Donetsk over the last several months. But while Russian forces were fully committed to the offensive, the Ukrainians were quietly conducting intelligence collection and preparation for what they considered to be the right strike. They waited for the right moment to strike swiftly and with precision. The Ukrainian military reported significant losses of Russian personnel, including some of the command staff. If the statements are true, this strike could have dealt a major blow to Russia's capacity to command and control its operations. The statement they made regarding that particular attack mentioned an interesting detail. Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov had visited that command headquarters in this region on August 28th, just days before the strike. If the defense minister's visit aimed at strengthening Russian command and control structures, that attack significantly undermined that purpose. The General Staff release stated that the strike involved the joint firing of missile and artillery units, the Air Force, and the Unmanned Systems Forces in cooperation with other units. The precision and coordination of that strike demonstrate Ukraine's developing capability to perform complex strikes deep into Russian-held territory. It also sends a message. Ukraine is not just defending its territory. It is now targeting the Russian army's command and control capabilities as well. According to military officials, strikes on these facilities disrupt command and control of Russian forces significantly. In other words, if Russia cannot command its troops effectively, it cannot fight effectively. Every successful strike weakens the structural integrity behind Russia's fights. Earlier, Russian media reported on Belousov's visit to the headquarters of the Center Group of Forces, and that he was updated on operations in the Pokrovsk direction. But that site may now be in ruins. There is a symbolic significance to the timing of this strike that goes beyond the battlefield. Despite Russia's spring and summer offensives pursing deeper towards Pokrovsk and other primary areas in Donetsk Oblast, Ukraine has not stood idly by. In recent weeks, Ukraine has conducted several planned counterattacks. Reported by the National Guard's 1st Azov Corps on September 15th, Ukrainian forces claim to have conducted operations that resulted in the clearing of Russian troops from the village of Pankivka in the Dobropilya area. Earlier this month, Ukrainian troops also freed Novoekonomikne and Udakne, two villages close to Pokrovsk. They may seem like trivial accomplishments, but in a conflict that values gain in meters and not miles, we returned two villages, a symbol of their determination and steadfastness. On September 7th, Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskov said Ukrainian forces liberated 26 square kilometers of territory around Pokrovsk, while losing 5 square kilometers in August. It is a constant game of tug-of-war, where each repossession or loss makes a significant difference. But one of the most interesting elements of this story is what it says about the changing nature of Ukraine's approach. Ukraine is more than just a nation on defense. They are actively taking aim at the Russian war machine's core, their command and control system. If these strikes can persist and still have effect, then Russia's ability to effectively join its forces will start to unravel. This is exactly why this single event, a significant strike in a populous region deep within Donetsk, may be regarded as much more than the latest front news. It could be seen as the day timing, intelligence, and accuracy coalesced, and the movement and reincorporation of a war itself was changed. If the initial accounts of the Ukrainian attack appeared impressive, the information behind it suggests something more deliberate. It was no accident or coincidence. It was the result of weeks of intelligence work, coordination, and precision. To evaluate the ramifications of the strike, we need to look at how the operation unfolded and why it attacked the heart of the Russian military system. The Ukrainian military did not simply fire on an enemy position. It targeted the most significant nerve centers of the Russian army in Donetsk Oblast. The command posts contained the center group of forces and the 41st Combined Arms Army, involved in the fight for Pokrovsk. The Ukrainian General Staff had tracked movement in these command posts for a period of up to several days, likely through a combination of drone reconnaissance, satellite image, and communications intercepts. Intelligence is not enough to win a battle. As mentioned above, timing, accuracy, and coordination makes a difference. Military experts have indicated that these types of strikes are aimed at what they refer to as the brain of an army. If you blind the brain, the body cannot move. Thus, Ukraine sought to not just obliterate buildings, but also to disrupt Russia's coordination structure. The following hours reportedly saw a slowdown in Russian operations throughout the neighboring sectors, and Ukrainian forces were able to take advantage of that environment to push forward. The operation itself showcased an increasing sophistication in the Ukrainian armed forces. 3 branches of the armed forces all coordinated in perfect sequence. The various missile and artillery units carried out the firepower, while the Air Force and unmanned systems forces offered accuracy. This level of coordination is change from the early months of the war, when strikes were localized and timely. Ukraine is now learning to think ahead. Prior to the strike, Russian media had exhibited Defense Minister Andrei Belousov inspecting the same HQ that was hit, indicating that it was for morale purposes and to check on operations. Nevertheless, that previously posted video may have revealed a location that Ukraine needed verified. If that was indeed the case, it represents a truly unusual twist in the story. The fact that Russia's highest defense official was at a facility likely targeted soon after demonstrates how the timing of intelligence changes everything. Reports emerged post-strike, stating that Russian units had some radio communication interference and slow unit responses. Some unverified reports even indicated there were temporary withdrawals as units regrouped to re-establish contact with commanders. While these details have not been verified, there are patterns that many military analysts call command paralysis that can occur after a precision strike. However, the broader view represents what makes this event momentous. Ukraine's tactics demonstrate an obvious pivot to what strategists refer to as deep warfare. Strikes not only against enemy troops, but at the systems that allow them to operate. Therefore, every successful strike against a command post diminishes Russia's overall operational effectiveness on the battlefield. Now, the issue is what comes next. Russia will not leave an event like that without a response. Strikes back are nearly a certainty, and it seems likely that both sides will escalate drone and missile strikes in the upcoming days. If Ukraine strikes the leadership and coordination centers of the Russian military, it can gradually erode Moscow's operational capability in Donetsk. And that may change the entire direction of this front. The September 8th strike was more than a tactical victory. It was a message, ordered, calibrated, and very symbolic. It shows that at times, information and timing can be more important than numbers. But Ukraine appeared to be waiting for this response. Ukrainian intelligence units quickly adjusted, changing command centers and re-establishing hardened defensive positions. If the Russians thought retaliation would shift the initiative back in their favor, they were about to be challenged in a new way. The Ukrainian forces had grown increasingly agile, with mobile command systems, decentralized communications, and more rapid coordination between ground and air formations. Therefore, any Russian counterstrike found a defense that had already integrated this in their response. At the same time, the psychological impact of Ukraine's strike weeks ago was still reverberating on the battlefield, with reports indicating that Russian officers had become more hesitant to gather in predictable sites, which alone could slow the speed of decision-making and provide more time for Ukrainian troops to maneuver and counterattack. However, beyond the tactics, there was something bigger changing. Ukraine had demonstrated that it could strike deep into occupied territory and hit where it really hurt. If this continued, the balance in Donetsk could shift yet again. Each successful operation diminishes equipment, of course, but also damages morale. In the modern fluid battlefield, morale can be as dangerous as any missile. And so, as the front lines around Pokrovsk and Donetsk continue to evolve, one thing is certain. The September strike was more than an attack. It was a statement of capability, confidence, and strategic maturity. Ukraine demonstrated that precision, timing, and intelligence can shape the course of a conflict more than sheer numbers ever could. Before you go, take a moment to support the channel. If you found this story insightful, tap the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new update.